I think one of the main things that bigger organisations consider is the security side of stuff. With an on-premise application, it's within your internal LAN, as it were. So firewalls are in place and stuff's tightly controlled. Now, what you're basically doing is you're devolving that responsibility to a third party, whether it be Workday, Cornerstone, Lumes, whoever. And with that comes this leap of faith in terms of being able to actually have the confidence that your data is secure, and with a multi-tenancy environment, that no other customers and stuff are going to have access to your data, number one. And number two, that Workday or whoever it is meets data protection acts and any other kind of legislative requirements within any company. And that's typically... Absolutely. So obviously I think one of the big advantages is obviously you, to some extent, reduce the whole kind of need for big armies of people supporting these applications. So there is a definite return on investment there, and a cost benefit. So you will find that because the headache from certain events such as upgrades is taken away from you. Typically large organisations may spend a year upgrading an Oracle system or an SAP system. Well, that's provided to you 2 or 3 times a year by Workday, and all you really need to do is ensure that it's fit for purpose from a testing point of view. What there isn't is the ability to actually change layers and layers of code and then have to actually pull that code out, upgrade, and then re-implement all of that code. There's a defined actual upgrade path that Workday follow based on their roadmap, and you really need to kind of buy into that mindset. And I think that's one of the other things is, to some extent, your destiny is controlled by somebody else. Whereas in the past, you could quite happily, as I say, customize the system to meet any of your requirements. Now you're part of a bigger kind of you're a piece in a bigger in a bigger jigsaw puzzle, as it were. And Workday, to some extent, to take the pace of what upgrades and what functionalities included in those upgrades. There's probably a kind of belief that when you're implementing cloud, doesn't matter what culture of organization you have, it'll be an easy kind of transition to move to the cloud, and you'll get a quick uptake of people using the system. I think people sometimes underestimate the change management element of actually implementing a cloud application. You'll find some organizations are very skeptical of the cloud. So let's take the whole government sector, for instance, public sector organizations, whether it's central government or local government. They have very strict protocols in place in terms of GSI, government secure internet and what have you. And so those companies are still kind of feeling their way, as it were, to see if cloud is for them. And they've had heavy investments in SAP or Oracle and what have you. So I think there's going to be some big shifts, and there's got to be some big, as I said before, leaps in faith from those organisations, because obviously, data protection and security and what have you is probably very prevalent and very high in their kind of list of priorities. Plus, I think older manufacturing organisations probably, it's not so easy to. They've got heavy investment in logistics systems, inventory systems and what have you, and they need those systems to be talking to each other very seamlessly. So to actually then maybe to implement a cloud-based system and to actually redesign their whole architecture to actually meet that, I think, again, depending on how much investment they're willing to put in, it is something that these companies probably consider also. I think what you'll find is, from a service-based perspective, there's many success stories, and it seems to be working really well for small, medium-sized businesses looking to actually get onto the cloud, get something deployed very quickly. I think it actually offers a very attractive benefit in terms of having something working very quickly, which can kind of service their needs, and also gives them a platform to actually grow with too. So as the organisation grows, the system itself is scalable. And what they don't have is the headache and the costs that go with having a big infrastructure in place to support any of these kind of systems. So within the next 5-10 years, you'll find that most applications will be cloud-based. Most companies will have to move to the cloud to some extent or another, because the whole of the IT industry is moving that way. And as you know, technology is moving so fast at the moment. I mean, who could have predicted 10-15 years ago that you could pick up a mobile phone and you can basically see your emails coming in onto that mobile phone, and now to extend that you can actually submit expenses through a mobile phone. So I think the pace of change will kind of dictate what's coming, and with the actual technological developments that are actually occurring at the moment, I think it's very difficult to actually kind of put your finger on, say, right, from the cloud we move to this area next, just because of the pace of change. So I think really at the moment it's about embracing that change, about moving to the cloud and really being in a place where you're comfortable, and you're kind of one step ahead of your competitors, so that you can get that competitive advantage of moving to the cloud sooner rather than later. What you don't want to be is a position where you're catching up. Absolutely. I mean, just to give you my own example, I was working with the on-premise kind of solution architecture for many years myself, and it was a leap of faith in my own personal respect, really, to move to a cloud-based system and to help actually deploy cloud-based applications and stuff. So, as I say, in terms of companies and stuff, if I'm very honest, I think people that are switched on and can see where the market's heading, they will be ahead of the curve. They taking that leap of faith will just be a natural progression from where they are at the moment, because they can see the success stories in other companies. But I think you may find that maybe some of the people that are kind of more backward looking, for them you may never get that leap of faith or that actual jump, and it's very much the devil, the better the devil and it's kind of, if it isn't broke, let's just stick with what we know. And I think that will really be to their disadvantage as time progresses, really.